Hey, NCAA gymnastics fans, we've got Brandis and Claire from College Gym News back this week to discuss this week's NCAA.com power rankings. So, starting things off with the team rankings, we've got Oklahoma and Cal on top. Claire, talk to me a little bit about what went down with the 198s this week.
Absolutely. So it's always a big milestone each season when a team finally breaks that 198 mark. And this week we actually had three. The first of which came from kind of an unexpected source, you could say. Ball State, who is a fantastic team, but had never broken 197. And at the Tennessee Collegiate Classic this weekend, they and every other team competing set a new season high and a new program high. So we're gonna just kind of skip over that for a little bit because that's a topic for another video. But so they were briefly on top with their 198.025, and then later that same night, LSU broke the mark with a 198.125. And then the very next day, as expected, the Sooners came in and reclaimed the top spot with a 198.325.
As they always seem to do, they've got that polish and, that dynasty status that's really helping them thrive and keep them on top of the rankings this week. And then we've also got Cal, who hasn't hit 198 quite yet, but, they're just under that mark, looking really polished, looking really fine. And their consistency has been pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. They got their second consecutive 197.875. So they are right there. They've got a big home meet coming up this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up adding that 198 total to their record.
Right. With their home debut coming up this weekend, it could be as soon as here in a couple days. So, really led off by Maya Lauzon, who was number 2 in our all-around rankings this week. Not a lot of movement. We've got Bryant still on top, Lauzon second, and Raina Worley from Kentucky in third. They just keep getting a little bit better week by week, don't they?
Absolutely. All three of them have been so consistent this year. Lauzon especially, she's always been capable of those big scores, but she is just dialed in this season. And I don't expect her to leave that top three anytime soon. What's interesting is the Sooners, they tend to favor specialists. Well, this year they've got 4 all-arounders. Jordan Bowers, Faith Torres, Audrey Davis, and a surprise entrant, Catherine Levasseur, who's always been on 2 or 3 events, but in her senior season, she's added 4. All 4 of them broke the 39.6 mark this week, which was pretty impressive. So those 4 are the ones to watch to challenge the top 3. And then Leanne Wong also made her debut in the all-around with 39.625. But since she is training for the Olympics, not sure how often we're going to see her in that all-around category, but enjoy her while she's there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a treat anytime we get to see her compete, considering we might see her in Paris this summer as well. So incredible. Moving on to vault, definitely the year of the front handspring pike half, as that takes up 5 of the 6 spots in our ranking, with just Lauzon's 1.5 in there as well.
Right. I don't think I've ever seen this many front handspring pike halves in a power ranking or in the top 10. It's like Kentucky's vault lineup. It's just one after another. Sage Kellerman from Michigan State, excellent once again with a 995. Brian, of course, she almost stuck her landing. One judge thought she did, gave her a 9.975. And actually in that same meet, Ariana Patterson from Kentucky followed Bryant's with her own stuck front handspring pike half, but she only got a 9.925, which was a little controversial. She doesn't quite have Bryant's height and distance, but it was an excellent, excellent vault. And then, of course, Suki Feister from Ball State. She's no stranger to our power rankings. She got a 10 for her front handspring pike half in that Tennessee Collegiate Classic. And she is such an outstanding vaulter. Unfortunately, we don't have video from the judge's angle from that meet, so we can't really say whether or not that was her the best that she's ever done. But certainly, she is absolutely capable of getting a 10. So.
Oh, for glad sure. To see I really, loving this change of the front handspring pike half. I feel like a lot of teams and individuals shied away from it in years past because they couldn't get that height and that amplitude. But
I was a front vaulter, so I am so thrilled to see it in vogue.
Amazing. And then we've got one of our top vaulters, Raina Worley, actually on top of the bars rankings this week. It's
Right.
really amazing to see her progress, on this event specifically, kind of be the key to her all around success this year.
Absolutely. I mean, she's always been a top all-arounder. She's always been a good bars worker. She's certainly gotten big scores in the past, but it's kind of become her strongest event this season. She got her second 9975, and she is currently sitting atop those rankings over people like Lily Smith from Georgia, the standout freshman who got her first perfect 10 on bars. Very well deserved. It was I don't think anybody was arguing that 10. And
No
then,
point. Yeah.
yeah. And then Mara Teetersole, who transferred to Mizzou from LIU this year. She's gotten a 10 in the past and is known for her exquisite bars work and technique. She's struggled a little bit through the season and her first couple of meets, but finally dialed in and got a 9975. Just a gorgeous routine.
Yeah, it was incredible. I know she downgraded a little bit, taking that awesome Bahardwaj out of her routine in place for a
Right.
pack, but clearly a wise decision as she's, pushing
Yeah.
perfection with that.
Right. And hopefully as she
Yes.
gets a little more confident in her SEC team, maybe she'll add it back.
We can only
Oh,
hope.
and then Lindsay Offer, also at that Tennessee collegiate meet. Again, we don't have video, unfortunately, but she's a junior from SEMO and she is consistently excellent on bars. So hopefully we'll get to see more 10s from her this season.
Would be awesome. And speaking of 10s, moving over to beam, we've got our beam queen, Miley O'Keefe, back on top after another perfect 10 from her this weekend. I think we feel vindicated for not fully dropping her out of our rankings with her fall last time around.
Right. We kind of controversially kept her in the rankings, even though she fell last week, because we said she's probably going to rebound with a 10, and she did just that. This is her fourth 10 in 5 performances. So Miley O'Keefe things. Sienna Schreiber from Mizzou somehow got another 9975. I don't know what she has to do to get a 10. She has been so good for so long and always gets just right there. She's kind of like Audrey Davis. One judge, not the judges, one judge always finds something. So, but she stays in that number 2 spot.
And I think we've impressively also got Sierra Brooks in there. She got a 9.975 for the second week in a row with her incredibly difficult double tuck dismount.
Right.
Not something we see a ton and incredibly hard to stick. So the fact that she's doing that is wonderful. And then moving on to floor, not a ton of movement in these rankings either, as we've got Ella Hodges of Ohio State camping out on top there.
She is. She has always been very good at floor. She's always gotten big scores, but she has just been the most consistently excellent floor worker this year. Obviously, we've seen a 10 from Brooks, we've seen 10 from Hooten, but they've also had some 9.8 scores. Well, Hodges has just been 9.95, and now this is her 9.925, but still one of the top scores of the week. So it's fun to see her really coming into her own this season. And then, of course, we also saw Wong make her debut with a 9.95. But I think the biggest floor story of this week was LSU's Kaya Johnson in her 5th year. She got a perfect 10 almost a year to the day when she tore her Achilles doing a floor routine last year. So that was really cool to see her come back and finally get some vindication for what happened last season. So
yeah, it's awesome to see that, come full circle to really be able to rebound and get back to be that, stellar LSU floor worker that we've, come to know from her. You never know with an Achilles injury.
So.
You never know with that kind of injury how well they're going to be able to come back. So just to see her out there dominating again is great, and also a great sign for LSU. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that is our breakdown of this week's power rankings. We, as always, go a little bit more in depth in our full article, so make sure to read that. And with a bunch of top meets this weekend, like Denver and Oklahoma, we've got Oregon State and Cal. I believe we've got Alabama at Florida coming up. We are sure to see a bunch of shuffling in these rankings, so be sure to check back next week.